My name is Eleanor Mitchell, or at least, that's who people have known me as for the past 2 years. In truth, I am Eleanor Rose Reynolds Mitchell, the rightful heir to the Reynolds Group, one of the largest corporate empires in the country. However, for the past 2 years, no one within the company knew my true identity except for the chief financial officer and my father. Everything changed 2 years ago when my father suffered a heart attack. As the president of the company, he had always borne the burden of our family legacy on his shoulders. That night in the hospital, as I sat beside his bed, holding his frail hand, he made an unusual request. "Eleanor, I need you to do something for me, for the company," he whispered, his voice weak but determined. "Of course, Dad," I said, my heart aching at the sight of him so vulnerable. "I want you to work your way up from the bottom," he continued, "without anyone knowing who you really are." I stared at him, stunned. "Why, Dad? I just finished my MBA abroad. I was expecting to join the board." He sighed, his tired eyes filled with something deeper than mere concern. "Because the company is sick, Hija, not with numbers, but with people. I need you to see what I can't see from the top." And so, my life as Eleanor Mitchell began. I took my mother's maiden name and entered Reynolds Corp as an administrative assistant. Armed with carefully prepared documents masking my true identity, I became just another employee, unnoticed and insignificant. What I uncovered over the next 2 years opened my eyes to the reality my father had feared. The Human Resources Department, under the control of Ryan Mendoza, was a breeding ground for nepotism and exploitation. But the real betrayal was discovering that my sister-in-law, Valerie, my brother Edgar's wife, was the deputy director. On my first day, I had my first taste of their corruption. Valerie, who hadn't seen me in the 5 years I had been away studying, didn't recognize me. She looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Another union recommendation," she muttered to Ryan. "Put her in the back somewhere where she won't be a nuisance." I was assigned the most menial tasks, filing paperwork, making coffee, taking messages. But in doing so, I gained access to conversations and information that no one bothered to hide from a mere assistant. It wasn't long before I uncovered the full extent of their scheme. Ryan and Valerie had turned promotions into a business. Raises were handed out in exchange for special contributions. And those who dared to complain quickly found themselves on the next layoff list. "It's just the corporate game, Carita," Valerie once told me over lunch, unaware of who I really was. "The weak serve the strong. It's the law of nature." My brother Edgar, the company's vice president, seemed completely blind to his wife's actions, or, I thought bitterly, he chose not to see them. For months, I documented every irregularity, every bribe, every cent siphoned away. My father, who had since recovered, monitored my investigation from a distance. "Patience, Eleanor," he reminded me during our secret meetings. "Let them feel safe." Then things took a turn for the worse. Catherine, a co-worker and single mother of 3, was fired for poor performance after rejecting Ryan's advances. I found her crying in the restroom the day she packed her things. "I have to pay for my kids' school," she sobbed. "What am I going to do?" That night, I couldn't sleep. By morning, I had made my decision. I confronted Ryan about Catherine's unjust dismissal. "Who do you think you are?" he spat, his face turning red with rage. "You're a nobody. You should be grateful you even have a job." Valerie, standing beside him, smirked. "I told you, Ryan," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "These nobodies always think they have rights." The entire office fell silent. Some employees looked at me with pity, others with fear, knowing they could be next. "Since you care so much about justice," Ryan sneered, his voice rising so everyone could hear, "why don't you join Catherine? You're fired." "It'll be my pleasure to process your severance package," Valerie added with a triumphant smile. That was when I decided enough was enough. I reached into my bag and pulled out my real identification, the one that named me as Eleanor Reynolds Mitchell, CEO and majority shareholder of Reynolds Group. "I think there's been a mistake," I said calmly. "The ones who are fired are you too." The silence was deafening. Ryan's face drained of color, his anger morphing into sheer panic. But it was Valerie's reaction that truly captured everyone's attention. No, it's not possible," she stammered, stumbling backward. "Eleanor's in Europe. Edgar told me so. I came back 2 years ago, Canada. I replied, emphasizing the word. Right around the time you started your little extortion business. Just then, the elevator doors opened. My father entered, followed by the CFO and a team of auditors. Valerie turned pale. "Dad!" she gasped, her voice cracking. My father, despite leaning on his cane, stood tall. "I was surprised too," he said, when Eleanor showed me the evidence. Ryan tried to salvage the situation. "Mr. Reynolds, I can explain." "Explain what?" I interrupted, pulling out a folder. "The training fees you charged employees, or the fake contracts with companies you secretly owned." Valerie lunged for the exit, but security was already blocking the doors. Desperate, she called my brother. "Edgar, you need to come. Now." Minutes later, Edgar arrived, confused by the chaos. "What's going on?" he asked, looking between his wife and me. "I came back 2 years ago, Edgar," I said. "Long enough to watch your wife and Ryan destroy the company our father built." As the police arrived to arrest them, Valerie hissed at me, "I'll ruin you." I met her gaze coldly. "You have nothing left." Edgar turned to me, his face filled with regret. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I replied. My father placed a hand on my shoulder. "Now we rebuild, not from the top, but from the bottom, the way Eleanor taught us." I turned to the employees, who were still watching in stunned silence. "Starting today," I announced, "things will be different. But I need your trust." The months that followed were intense. News of the arrests quickly spread, and soon headlines blared. "Undercover heir exposes corruption in business empire." But I had bigger concerns than the press. My first official act as CEO was to reinstate all employees who had been unjustly fired. Catherine was the first to return, this time as the new director of human resources. "Are you sure?" she asked when I offered her the position. "I don't have an MBA or big connections." "You have something better," I replied. "Integrity and real experience with what our employees endure." Edgar took an indefinite leave of absence, needing time, as he put it, to reflect on his failures. Before leaving, he handed me a letter. "Don't read it now," he said. "Read it when everything settles." The trial against Ryan and Valerie exposed the full extent of their crimes. They had embezzled over $3 million, but more importantly, they had stolen the dignity of countless employees. During the hearings, dozens of workers testified about years of abuse, stories of broken families, crushed dreams, and ruined careers. Each testimony was a painful reminder of why my father insisted I see the company from the ground up. Valerie, from prison, tried to negotiate. "I can give you the names of other corrupt executives," she offered during one of my visits. "We can make a deal." "You don't get to make deals anymore, sister-in-law," I replied. "Your time is over." The final sentence was harsh. 8 years in prison for both, along with full restitution of the stolen funds. But the true justice came in the form of systemic reform. We implemented a transparent management system. Every HR decision, every promotion, every raise had to be reviewed by a committee made up of employees from different levels of the company. "It's inefficient," some older executives grumbled. "It takes too much time." "Justice takes time," I answered. "Injustice destroys everything in seconds." With the recovered money, we created an education fund. Employees' children could now apply for scholarships, something Valerie once used as a tool of manipulation. Months later, I finally opened Edgar's letter. "Dear sister, the shame I feel is my greatest punishment, not only for being blind to Valerie's actions, but for forgetting the lessons Dad taught us about the responsibility that comes with the Reynolds name. You didn't just uncover corruption, you proved there is a better way to lead, from the ground up, with empathy and justice. I don't deserve to be part of the company. Not yet. I need to learn what you learned these past 2 years. With regret and admiration. Edgar." The letter moved me, but not as much as what I found on my desk the next morning. Dozens of small thank you notes from employees, telling me how their lives had improved, how they could finally sleep at night without fear. 1 year after my revelation, we held a new kind of celebration, not in the boardroom, but in the company cafeteria. Employees from all levels sat together, including my father. "Do you know the most valuable thing I learned in these 2 years?" I asked him as we watched the genuine happiness on people's faces. "What is it, my daughter?" "That real power isn't about making people fear you. It's about making them believe in themselves. Catherine approached with a surprise. The employees had created an internal mentorship program where experienced workers helped new hires. We call it Project Eleanor, she explained, smiling. Because you taught us that anyone can be a leader if they have their heart in the right place. Tears welled in my eyes, not because of the recognition, but because I finally understood why my father had insisted on that unusual request 2 years ago. Sometimes, he said, reading my thoughts, we need to lose our title to find our purpose. The company didn't just recover, it thrived. Our numbers improved, not through fear or extortion, but because people worked with passion and pride. The Reynolds name once again stood for integrity, not just power. As for me, I kept my desk in the back of the office, not because I had to hide, but to remind myself where the true heart of a company lies. Don't you miss your executive office? Catherine asked me one day. I looked out at the employees working with peace and dignity. From here, I said, I can see what really matters.